Okay. Why don't we kick this off? And I'm sure a few more people will be joining in. If you're not able to see us, please gather closer. Right above our heads, you'll see the little icon that indicates when someone is speaking. Feel free to use the text chat as well throughout the AMA if you want to ask questions or make comments. If you plan on asking a question, we're going to try to get to sort of a community AMA where you get an opportunity to ask some questions at the end. If you're planning on asking a question, you're going to press the V key, that's V for Victor, on your keyboard. But please only do so once we get to that portion of this segment. And if you are planning on speaking and it's not working again, just please let us know in the chat. We can coordinate with you there. But why don't we kick things off? Joe, welcome to part 2 of this Alvara AMA inside EVERDOME Spaces. This is very exciting to have you back in here. It's exciting to be hosting another AMA Spaces inside the metaverse, and just really cool overall to see how we continue to be able to collaborate together on these kinds of community updates for your project.
Yeah, thanks for having me here again. It's always nice to be here. It's a cool Spaces.
Very cool. So we're going to kick off. We have a couple of themes, or a few themes, that we wanted to touch on. One of them being the transition in Alvara's development team. We wanted to talk about the upcoming Alvara roadmap. And then there's also a component of the discussion that'll focus on the new community structure. So why don't we kick it off with the transition in Alvara's development team, and maybe you can share some input and information on what's happening there.
So when we first started Alvara, we were working with our original development team of about 4 people. They've helped us create the ERC-7621. They've helped us create the demo, the testnet version. But seeing we wanted to accelerate development and get mainnet done before the end of the year, we transferred to one of our partners, which is Spirit Blockchain Capital's acquired Trune Technologies. And Trune Technologies has recently taken over development, which is accelerating us. And it's a bigger development team. There's about 10 people working on there. So it's a lot bigger than what we had, more organized, and it will enable us to have a more accurate roadmap. And I will take you through like 3 main sections of our roadmap right now, which I think the listeners will be excited to hear that. So we have of course, the full product, but it goes in stages. So we're releasing full product in December this year. We're aiming for the first week of December. So that is the full mainnet launch with all the capabilities. And in those sections, we'll have the portfolio pages, the BTS factory, the leaderboard like we have them now. We'll have new contract for the DAO related modules and the staking. And the final stage will be the voting system and the BTS incentives, which will distribute rewards to all the BTS creators. And when all that is finished, we'll launch the complete product in December. And that's kind of the alpha we had here, because we discussed with Trune Technologies that we wanted to announce it in a good way. And the estimate they gave us is December for the complete mainnet product launch.
Very exciting. So before the end of the year, basically, which is not all that far away.
No, it's actually getting pretty close. Like we're beginning July, so we're halfway past the year. So
yeah, the time is certainly, exactly. The time is certainly flying. I'm curious, when you onboard and bring on more developers, typically when a community hears something like that, they expect that there's going to be an acceleration in development. Can you maybe touch on your perspectives on that?
Of course, they expect an acceleration, but in the beginning, there's of course a handover period. So what we've done is we've let both development teams, old and new, work together on a good handover. They had to do a full quality review, which included delaying our Avalanche launch a little bit, and it included a little delay on our testnet launch. But we wanted to have good quality, and we wanted to have our new development team review everything. So that's basically what we did. So we postponed the short-term goals for a couple of weeks, which will accelerate us in the long run, and it'll give us better quality in the long run as well. So that's why we're able to launch such a big product before the end of the year, because there's just a lot of people working on it right now. It's really structured. So overall, we've improved, but some short-term goals had to be delayed for a couple of weeks.
And that's such an interesting point that you just made, because I think in the Web3 space overall, sometimes there could be a little bit of a how quickly can we do A, B, C, and D, without really taking into account that in order to achieve a project's goals, there has to be a level of patience that exists and focus on ensuring quality, as opposed to just rushing a product out for the sake of saying, hey, we hit that initial target. And to your point, simply saying we have to push something back by a couple of weeks so that we can actually produce the quality that we know our community wants to see.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've also run into with the Avalanche bridge, because our Alva token will have some functionalities, which is via Alva, the voting system. And we want to have these functionalities on Avalanche chain as well. So we've had to work those into the token on Avalanche, and now it allows us to bridge it. And we're working with Squid Router and XLR to create the bridging, which is done. But we are finding the right moment to list on Trader Joe and have the good marketing for it, and work together with Avalanche Chain and Trader Joe to have a good push on launch. So that's what we're planning right now. That will be very short term. So I won't be able to give a day yet, but it will be very, very short term.
No, that's super insightful. And when you reference the Avalanche bridge, when you talk about the launch on Trader Joe, maybe this is a good opportunity to segue into the conversation piece around the Alvara roadmap as a whole. Any sort of updates there that you can share, any sort of thought processes or anything you would like the community to know?
Well, the perfect thing is now that we have a development team that has estimated our full product development, and they're giving us weekly updates on product updates, like on product development. So when there's crucial stuff getting done, which the community would be excited about, we can share it. Like, we can be open about how development's going, and I think that gives a lot of transparency. Like, we'll be working closely together with Troon to make the right announcements at the right time, so we don't give false estimates. So yeah, I think there's a lot coming, and we will be more engaged with the community because we can give better estimates at the moment.
And maybe you can touch on the support by Ava Labs and TJ.
Yeah, the connects between Avalanche and TJ, we both have groups with them because deploying on Avalanche requires some support from both Avalabs and Trader Joe. It'll be mainly support on X, on Twitter, like liking, retweeting, like announcing. Avalanche is, of course, helping us get the token on there. Trader Joe is supporting us in the listing, and maybe even some yield generation in the future, because they also have these options on Trader Joe. So yeah, we're working closely with them. We're speaking to them, and they'll help us launch on Avalanche.
Sounds very exciting. Are you? What's your excitement level when it comes to that particular partnership there?
I mean, they're both big names. It's nice to partner with them on this. Like, they never really do official partnerships, but they will support and they will help. So essentially, it's a partnership without naming it. But yeah, it's exciting to work with them. They're pretty quick on the response. They help a lot, and they give good suggestions. So yeah, it's an exciting partnership. But yeah, the main thing we're focused on with the team right now is just launching mainnet, because there's so many partnerships waiting for when we launch mainnet, because then everything gets its utility, every integration's actually possible. So this is like the main thing we're waiting for at the moment.
Speaking of the mainnet, I got to ask you, when the mainnet gets launched, how do you define a successful launch for it? What has to happen in your mind, from your perspective and the team's perspective, to categorize the launch as a successful one?
The main thing we're looking at right now is we want to get it done in December. So we want to be in time and we want to have good quality. So we need audits in between. We need to have a launch without any bugs. And we just want people to get on there and have a good experience without having to message the team like, hey, this isn't working. Hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? There needs to be good explanation, not a lot of bugs. And also our partners, our venture capital firms, our institutions that want to use mainnet from start because we already have adoption there, which will tell everyone more about closer to mainnet. We want them to be able to use it easily also, because when one of the institutions opens up a fund, it's a little different than someone just putting in one ETH. Like someone putting in one ETH, when that goes wrong, is really sad, but somehow that is recoverable. But when an institution opens up a $700 million fund through Alvara, there needs to be extra security and it needs to go right the first time, because that is
Absolutely.
an amount of money that's just not recoverable. So that's why we're ensuring quality. And I think a successful mainnet launch for me and for the team would be no bugs, smooth functionality, and everyone's able to use it.
Of course. When you talk about the security features, and it makes me think about the point you made a little earlier around the audits that you're planning on running, I guess, throughout the process before you hit that mainnet launch in December. How does that process work generally for those who are hearing this and are curious of what something like that typically looks like? Can you maybe share in a broader sense what a project like Alvara does to ensure security is top of mind?
So we have our development team working on the product. They're creating the code, they're connecting it to the front end, but it needs testing by an independent firm, which is an audit firm. And in this audit firm, there's also developers working, and mostly they're more experienced than the average developer because they've seen everything. They perform checks and testing on the code via their software. It gives out bugs, like minor, major, or severe ones, and then they work together with our development team to solve the bugs and eventually give a report, which is a successful audit, and that ensures safety. So it's just a second check by an independent party that ensures the quality of the product.
Interesting. Okay. I want to shift the conversation a little briefly over to the third theme, which is the community structure. From my understanding, just in our conversation before we started off here, that you have a new community structure that you're rolling out, and maybe you can share a little bit of insight into what that looks like for everyone.
So there's a fun new thing we've introduced, which is the intern. He's yet to start tweeting, but he'll ramp up activity soon. It's essentially just an intern account, but it's an interesting character. We know him, and it'll be interesting to see him active on crypto Twitter. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and also good to interact with the other intern accounts on Twitter, like the one from Avalanche as well. There's a foundation account on Twitter, the Alvara Foundation, which will not be as active. It will be besides our main account, but it will mainly share news that regards Alvara as well. So focused on fund management, focused on ETFs. So it's a little more of an official account, which could be interesting for institutions to follow. And then within our community, there's a shift between the Telegram and the Discord because it's split up in two. We have the Alvara basement, which is a little more informal. Anyone can enter. The updates will be in there as well. And it's just for like general community to have fun. The team will be in there as well on Mondays. On Wednesdays, we'll have Wednesday, so people can ask, like, when are you releasing this? When are you releasing that? So we'll have continuous updates and interaction with the community in there. Besides the basement, we will have the board, and that's a different one because people have to be active and have to earn a place in the board, and it will have specific AMAs with interesting people, and it'll just be good to be in there. So I suggest community members put in the effort to get into the board.
It sounds like the basement one is where the party's at, and then the board one is where the ones who want to get a little more serious will focus their time and energy on.
Yeah, exactly. Like we want our community to be a party, and we've had pre-launch, we've had smash cards, we've had quizzes, and all that stuff. We're gonna bring it back. Maybe not specifically that. We'll bring more interaction back. Smash cards was received really well by our community because there were a lot of people playing it. So yeah, there's a lot of fun coming back to the community.
Community is a very integral part of the Web3 space, particularly for projects that are trying to grow and provide a service or a solution, or, plan out exactly what you're going to be doing. The community sort of plays an integral role throughout that process. How is Alvara sort of integrating the community beyond what you just talked about, sort of bringing them along for this journey?
I think the main thing is we want to be transparent. Like we want to keep them involved in what's going on in mainnet because I think the main thing why everyone's here in the community at the moment is, of course, they're holding alpha, which will have utility, but they see potential in the product and they want to be taken on the journey while developing the product, which we're going to try and do as best as we can right now with the new development team. So that's how we're going to involve them. We're just going to be a bit more accurate with the updates and estimates.
Which is super important. Obviously, the community would want to receive that firstly timely, but also, to that specific word that you used, accurate, is quite important for people on the receiving end of that messaging, wanting to know exactly when things are going to happen. So when you say, for example, the mainnet would be launched in December, that, you're able to hold true to that. And it seems quite evident that there's a level of transparency that's required, and you're a willing participant in that role.
Yeah, exactly. We just need to try and be as accurate as we can and give the estimates when we're a bit more confident about it. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Very cool. I'm going to turn it over in a moment to anyone who has a question. But before I did that, Joe, I wanted to ask you, based on the conversation that we've had, based on where you're sitting, looking at the project where it currently is, where you expect it to be in almost 6 months or so, what are you seeing? What are you thinking? What do you want to see happen for Alvara before the end of this year and as you move forward into 2025?
We'd like to see some more community growth and get more people engaged and involved, which will make it a better environment for adoption as well. And then we just want to see people use the platform and actually have like it should be useful for both retail institutions and fund managers. So we just want every single person to have a use case for Alvara, and we want to see the feedback. We want to see what they want to improve, and that's what we're going to try and do when we launch mainnet. Like, be open for the feedback.
Absolutely. That feedback mechanism is super important when your users and your community are the ones that are essentially utilizing the product. They are a database of knowledge and information on what's working for them, what's not working for them, that allows you in real time to support and also improve on the functionality and that user experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
And it's funny because I was also thinking, as you were talking about expanding the community, growing the community, are you finding it challenging to do that in the current Web3 climate? Or do you feel like the environment in which you're operating in may not necessarily have as big an effect as we might think it does?
Well, I think in the current environment of Web3, it's pretty difficult because the market's not that good, which causes people to be not that engaged and they're not always looking for new opportunities. So it's hard to get new members in, of course. So yeah, it is challenging, but I feel like we just need to be prepared for when the market picks up again. When you put in the right infrastructure to onboard new community members, you can be ready for when the market's good, and then yeah, it'll be easier later on.
So forward planning, ultimately, being in a position where you're prepared for when the market turns around, so that you're not a You're not a project that only exists when things are good. Ultimately, you're a project with longevity and a track record.
Yeah, exactly. That's always what they say, right? We're not in a bear market at the moment. I think we're like closer to a bull than a bear, but in the bear market, you keep building and you keep going, which is what we've essentially did in the bear market before this. So that just proves you're in it for the long run. And I think when the community knows that, they're confident enough to back you up.
I couldn't agree more with that particular point of building in the bear market and the importance of nurturing and building a viable community, one that supports the project through the market conditions, because those are always inevitable, right? They'll happen not just today, tomorrow, next month, next year, 2 years, 10 years from now. They will always go in cycles, and it's about ensuring that you have a booming, engaged community throughout that whole process.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not always the easiest thing to do, especially when the market's a bit, well, the sentiment is a bit lower. But it is doable. And I feel like it's just about being transparent and keeping the updates going.
For sure. Joe, anything we haven't covered that you wanted to touch on before I turn it over to any potential questions here?
No, I think we covered everything. I'd like to hear the questions from everyone and either put in your mic or put it in the chat, well, whatever you want. But just shoot them over.
Well, we have a question right off the bat in the chat here from Elon Mars, which is a really cool name, by the way. What chains are currently supported by Alvara?
So currently the token is on Ethereum. We're bridging to Avalanche, so the token will be on two chains. But we are working together with CoinWeb, which will enable us to get all the EVMs, so everything EVM compatible. And they're also working on a Solana bridge, which will enable us to have full cross-chain capabilities for the platform.
There's a follow-up. All right. Can you combine tokens from different chains?
Yeah, the thing that we're exploring with CoinWeb, we should be able to get tokens from different chains in one BTS fund. Yeah. We're actively researching it because it hasn't been done yet by anyone, which is also quite interesting being a first to market. But yeah, we strive to get that done, and it's looking, positive working together with CoinWeb.
Thank you, Elon Mars, for that, and thank you, Joe, for the answers there. Checking around the room here, is there anyone else who has a question? You can either type it in the chat, or if you press the V key. Okay, we got a question from Saul Gallio. How big is your team, and is there a chance to join your team? Joe, I think there's someone who's trying to get an interview.
Someone's applying for a job in the spaces.
And Elon Mars also wants to join.
They all want to join. Well, it really depends on the role, right? But our team, we have our two founders, we have about three people in the marketing department, we have two designers, some people in the tech, me on business development, and then we have about 10 developers. So I'd say somewhere between like 15 and 20 people at the moment. But yeah, it really depends on the role because, yeah, it depends. If you want to join the team, depends on your experience, depends on the role. So curious.
We might be hosting our very first job interview in the metaverse here. This is quite the historic moment.
Planning to continue doing those sessions here in Everdome. Well, we want to have one closer to mainnet, and I think we're also looking at doing spaces that are on Twitter and in our Telegram. So we'll have different types of AMAs. So not just Everdome, but we do like the spaces. So yeah.
Oh, that's what we like to hear. So, in terms of, we have another question here. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to go to Daniel De Palma's question just because it's a follow-up to the original question. Maybe some other experiences here are also possible. You mentioned some community activities. Joe, do you foresee community activities in a space like this that aren't necessarily AMAs?
Well, yeah, we could do that. We just have to make sure it's accessible for everyone, because some people in our community don't have like a laptop at ready always. So we want to try and make it accessible from mobile or video games. So I think, yeah, we could definitely have activities in metaverses like this, but we just have to make sure that it's fair for everyone to access.
So I was just going to say perhaps the first community activity could be a job fair, because it seems like that's what everyone is interested in.
Yeah. We could do that, have a job fair in the metaverse. But yeah, I think we could definitely have it in here, but we also want to have it accessible to everyone. Because, of course, this is a thing that you can listen back to. So it's a cool space. You can record it, we put it on YouTube, and everyone can still access it. But when it's a game and it's a live event, we want everyone to be able to participate live, and we're just going to try and make that as accessible as possible.
For sure. I'm going to now go back to Sol Galio's question. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing decentralized finance?
I think it's still an onboarding issue because the majority of the people don't really think it's secure yet, or don't really get like how to do it. Because to get into decentralized finance, you need a wallet, you need to get on your laptop, you need to do research. Where do you get your ETH? Where do you get your BNB? Like stuff like that. And it's still pretty hard to do because you need to get it, all the information, you need to get it from multiple resources before you can really enter like what is real decentralized finance. So not just buying ETH on Coinbase, not like actually getting into MetaMask, having your ETH there, interacting with a dApp. So it's just pretty far away from the like generic folk to enter it. And the same counts for institutions at the moment. Institutions don't think it's fully safe yet, while it's actually safer than a bank. So I think it's just an educational issue still.
Yeah, and I'd almost have to echo, not almost, I would definitely echo that sentiment of the education component being perhaps not quite there yet for a lot of users, just trying to understand how to utilize the different structures. I mean, if someone's grown up utilizing traditional fiat banking systems their entire life, to ask them, hey, you're going to use a digital token, you have to purchase it here, move it there, do this, then that. It's a very strange concept actually when you first learn about it, and that requires a certain amount of research. And as the space continues to grow, more projects come on board, more community members grow, there's going to be that natural education phase happening. But I think ultimately projects like yours, ours, are ultimately, we share a responsibility of helping to educate, in order to scale the space. All right, so we have another question from John. How many holders do you have already?
I think looking at exchanges and on chain, I think like between 2,000 and 3,000, 2,000 and 4,000. It's a bit hard to estimate because you don't really know how many people are on the exchanges. So I'm just going to give like a rough estimate.
Daniel De Palma has another question. How many BTS were created so far?
We are nearing the 5,000 mark. So it's actually being used a lot by our testers, and feedback is good. So we're happy with the numbers. It's getting good adoption.
Very cool. Congratulations on that. Elon Mars wants to know, did Larry Fink call you already? Has Larry called you, Joe? And if so, can we conference into this?
Nah, I can't be speculating about that, but we're not connected to BlackRock, but there's like we do know some like fund managers and people walking around at BlackRock that are available for us to talk to. But I won't start speculations about a BlackRock collaboration.
Come on, Larry's got to get it together and call Joe eventually. You know what? Maybe that is the case. Elon, are you ready to tell us who you really are, or should we call you Larry from this point on? He can't confirm or deny, or she can't confirm or deny. We don't actually know. Joe, sir, thank you very much for your time as always. Thank you for participating in round 2. We're excited to see where this goes for Alvara, and let's talk about that job fair.
Let's do that at some point. I think it was quite funny.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think we're good here. Thank you for hosting again, and we're looking forward to the next one somewhere later down the line this year.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Bye.